Will the Committee of Supply please come to order? This section of the Committee of Supply will now consider the estimates of the Department of Sports, Culture, Heritage, and Tourism. Does the Honourable Minister have an opening statement?
Yes.
The Honourable Minister.
Good afternoon. I am pleased to be here today, Honourable Chair. I would like to welcome my colleagues and members opposite. It is an honour and a privilege as Minister of Sport, Culture, Heritage and Tourism to introduce the 2024-2025 budgetary estimates for my department. I would like to introduce the members of my department here with me today. Jeff Natchik, Deputy Minister of Sport, Culture, Heritage and Tourism. Dolphine Oguna with our Administration and Finance team. Veronica Dick, Assistant Deputy Minister of Culture and Heritage Programs. Julia Tetro, Director of Sport and Tourism Policy. Scott Goodwine from the Archives, and we'll add another name afterwards. Budget 2024 reflects our government's commitment to fostering a thriving and diverse arts, culture, heritage, sports, and tourism landscape in Manitoba over the course of our first mandate. By prioritizing foundational investment in the arts and culture sector, Budget 2024 demonstrates our recognition of the invaluable contributions that arts and culture play in making our communities more attractive places to live and establish roots. Budget 2024 makes an investment towards strengthening the arts and culture sector and enhancing its capacity as a social, cultural, and economic driver for the benefit of all Manitobans. Just this past Friday, for example, we were pleased to host an announcement with the Premier and members of this Assembly to formally announce our investment of $1 million more for the Manitoba Arts Council and $500,000 more for the Manitoba Centennial Corporation Centre. This announcement is exciting as it represents the first real increase to the Manitoba Arts Council in a generation. This demonstrates both the faith we have in MAC as well as the need for investment in our cultural and artistic spaces. One of the things I really appreciate about MAC is their ability to reach and distribute these resources across the province. As a former teacher, I've seen firsthand the difference that exposure to the arts can have for a student. MAC's outreach to the community is exceptional, and I'm pleased that our government is continuing to support them. To support long-term sustainability, strengthen capacity, and support artistic and cultural activities, Budget 2024 provides increased annual funding for the following organizations. The Manitoba Arts Council will expand its operating grant programs to new clients in order to better reflect Manitoba's diversity. Manitoba Film and Music will expand their music programs and internal capacity to enhance programs and services for the sector overall. I want to speak a bit about Manitoba Film and Music. We know that Manitoba is having a moment. One of the things that really amazed me as a new minister is to see how committed the sector is to rowing in the same direction. We see companies, directors, executives, unions, they all work so well together. And of course, this is possible because of the support that we do in their work. The Centre culturel franco-manitobain will increase its capacity to foster and promote a diverse array of Francophone cultural and artistic activity. As a Franco-Manitoban, I know how important cultural spaces such as the CCFM are and what it means to have and be able to have a dedicated cultural centre. This past year, our government almost doubled funding to the CCFM, which again hadn't been seen in years. Le Centre culturel franco-manitoba va avoir un host dans sa capacité pour promouvoir les activités francophones et culturelles et artistiques. Comme franco-manitobain, je sais comment importants ces espaces sont et comment le CCFM est important. Cette année passée, notre gouvernement a presque doublé les fonds au CCFM qui n'étaient pas vus depuis longtemps. The Manitoba Centennial Centre Corporation will enhance its role as a Keystone Arts and Cultural Campus. This is possible because of our support for this community institution, and we have full confidence that our new board members can help strengthen this vital space. In addition, we will increase funding serving stakeholder organizations through the Ethnocultural Community Support Program to support the increasing number of organizations in program, and the Community Museum Grants Program to provide additional operating support to museums across the province. Budget 2024 includes $1.2 million in incremental funding for a new funding model that will reinforce libraries as cornerstones of our communities. I want to speak to the importance of the local library, especially in rural communities. These are community gathering spots and provide an avenue for people to have freedom to work together. It won't surprise people to hear, unfortunately, that libraries are sometimes under attack. We've seen pushes to ban books in some jurisdictions, to limit the freedom of Manitobans to access certain materials. Our government is steadfast that Manitobans should have the choice to access materials, to learn new things, and to gather information without hindrance. The new public library funding model will increase total operating funding for rural and northern libraries and the Winnipeg Library by $1.2 million to $8.3 million in 2024-2025, strengthening the overall public library system in Manitoba and reinforcing our partnership with municipalities. Budget 2024 builds on the more than $13.8 million in annual funding currently provided to Sport Manitoba, with $500,000 in increased funding dedicated to enhance anti-racism and anti-discrimination initiatives. I want to give a particular shout out to the Anti-Racism in Sport Group, they who have challenged us to work together. I'm pleased that we have accepted their offer, and I've been working with them and Sport Manitoba to address racism and harassment in sport. This funding will support all provincial sport organizations in their efforts to enhance diversity, equality, and the inclusion of First Nations, 2S LGBTQAI+, newcomers, and non-traditional communities in their respective sports. Our increased funding will also strengthen Sport Manitoba's delivery of the Safe Sports Strategy to promote the awareness, prevention, and direct service to address reports of maltreatment in sport. Budget 2024 maintains a commitment of $13.865 million in provincial funding to Travel Manitoba. Tourism funding supports the government's commitment to ongoing efforts to attract investment, foster job creation, and improve education and training opportunities that will lead to stronger economic growth, greater trade, and innovation. Our government recognizes the importance of protecting the rights of Francophones and improving access to French language education, healthcare, and other essential services. Our budget increases the investment of the operations of the Francophone Affairs Secretariat by almost $500,000, funded through the new Canada-Manitoba Agreement on French Language Services with our federal government partners. These amounts will support the efforts of all departments to improve access to services in French so that we can build a more inclusive province. Budget 2024 recognizes the importance of government records, publications, and archival holdings. Preserving Manitoba's documentary history requires collaboration and partnership with our stakeholders. By working together, we can leverage expertise, resources, and technology to develop innovative solutions for managing, acquiring, and preserving records and publications in digital form. Notre gouvernement reconnaît l'importance de protéger les droits des francophones et pour améliorer l'accès à l'éducation en français, les soins en santé en français et d'autres services essentiels. Budget 2024 hausse notre investissement dans les opérations dans les secrétariats des affaires francophones par presque 500 000 $, fondés par le nouveau entente Canada-Manitoba sur les langues officielles. Ces montants vont supporter les efforts au département pour améliorer l'accès aux services en français pour que nous pouvons être une province véritablement bilingue. Finally, I want to thank our department staff. Each member of our team plays a vital role in ensuring a more vibrant, inclusive, and prosperous Manitoba. Merci. Thank you.
We thank the minister for those comments. Does the critic for the official opposition have an opening statement?
Yes.
The member from Selkirk.
Thank you for the opportunity to sit at the estimates and ask some questions. As a new member to the Legislative Assembly of the province, it's a learning curve for myself, and I can imagine that for the minister, this is quite the portfolio to very fluid in many different areas to try to get a grip on. So I would appreciate the fact that he's got a number of staff here to get it done. We do have a number of questions today to move back and forth, so between myself and my colleague, we'll be asking questions and relating to the Manitoba sport, culture, heritage, and tourism portions, and each taking a turn respectfully as we move along. We do want to make sure that we get a number of things on the record. I think that we all in agreement that every part of this budget affects our communities, affects the history of where we've come from, and also affect where we're going. So hopefully we can have a great dialogue moving forward and get some great things, questions on the record and answers on the record, and we can move forward respectfully. Thank you.
We thank the member for Selkirk. Under Manitoba practice, debate on the minister's salary is the last item considered for a department in the Committee of Supply. Accordingly, we shall now defer consideration of line item 14.1A contained in Resolution 14.1. At this time, we invite the minister's staff to join us at the table, and we ask that the minister introduce the staff in attendance. The honourable member.
All right, we'd just like to introduce my staff. So you put a name to the name to the face. On my left, immediate left, is Deputy Minister for Sport, Culture and Heritage, Jeff Natcher. To his left is my Director of Ministerial Affairs, Zach Fleischer. First on that line is the Assistant Deputy Minister for Culture and Heritage, Roger Vick. And just want to get everyone's name spelled. Yes. And then we have Delphine from Finance, as well Scott Goodwine from the Archives. And we have Julia Tatro from the Sport Policy Branch. And Kenza Zoe from the Francophone Secretary, French Language Secretary.
Thank you, Minister. According to our Rule 7816, during the consideration of departmental estimates, questioning for each department shall proceed in a global manner, with questions put separately on all resolutions once the official opposition critic indicates that questioning has concluded. The floor is now open for questions. The member for Selkirk.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Just inquiring to the Minister if we can find out what is the number of staff in total in the department?
The Honourable Minister.
The number for 24-25 is 165.6 staff.
The member for Selkirk.
I'd like to thank the minister for that answer. Also, if I can find out in the office itself, what is the number of staff directly related into your office?
The honorable minister.
Yeah, just looking for a question for clarification there. Are you asking for the minister's office only or including the deputy minister's office?
The member for Selkirk.
Both the minister and the deputy minister, please.
The honorable minister.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to thank the member for that question because I just wanted, before I answer your question, to let everyone in Manitoba who's watching know that I'm blessed with awesome staff. The deputy minister's staff and the people who work in my office are beyond compare. In my time as being a new minister and kind of, you guys know what that's like to show up to work and then kind of be, oh wow, what's going on here? And the people who worked in those offices have really shepherded me through my time as minister. And I just wanted to make sure that as I answer your question, that they're phenomenal. And any person who's ever had the privilege to hold a spot in government and in a minister's chair realize how fortunate we are to work with the people we work with. And I felt like I won the lottery when I was sitting with people and they were telling me about everything to expect in those early months. And as we went through the year and had just a great year, those people in that office really were my support, were there for me when I had the dumbest questions you could possibly imagine, and were able to let me know, no, this is the way it is, this is what you should be considering. So before answering that question, I just really wanted to take the time to shout out those people who do the work. And the office staff in the minister's office, there's 5, and then 3 in the deputy's office, including the deputy minister.
The member for Selkirk.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I'd like to thank the minister for that great answer. Being surrounded by good people my entire life, it's the staff that makes you look good, and there's clearly a tremendous amount of respect between you and the staff that work in the building, and that just is a testament to all the people who come and put their lives forward to work for the betterment of our province. So that's a good answer, and I appreciate that. The total salaries paid to the staff that you just mentioned, could you tell me what that total salary would be?
The Honorable Minister.
Sorry about that. I just need to do one final calculation. I want to thank Delphine Oguna for doing that work on the fly here.
Your time.
So we have a
The Honorable Minister.
total of 773,245.
Uh,
The member for Selkirk.
Well, I'd like to thank the minister for that answer. I would have thought that that would have been very quick, top of head. Coming from private industry, if anybody would ask me what I'm paying people, I always knew what my department was paying them. But I do appreciate the direct and right down to the dollar answer. That total salary for the staff, is that an increase from 23-24 year, or is it a decrease from the 2023-24 year?
The Honorable Minister.
Just in response to the question and the commentary made prior, I think that you can appreciate the answer that we gave right down to the dollar demonstrates the type of quality of work that we have in our department. And having exact figures on the top of mind, I think it does us justice to make sure that we make sure all of those numbers that we are sharing are correct. So I thank my staff for doing that. And specific to the question about whether or not it is an increase or a decrease, due to MGEU settlements, it is an increase.
The member for Selkirk.
I'd like to thank the minister for that answer, and my response was no way a slight to the department for taking time. I just thought that would have been a figure that would have been readily available, but taking the time to get the actual exact amount was appreciated and was not a slight on the department whatsoever. I'd like to talk a little bit about the ACSC fund. How does the minister justify canceling this fund and cutting off crucial support for community-level arts, culture, sports initiatives that directly benefit Manitobans?
The Honorable Minister.
Our government approved 50 million in local community grants through the ACSC fund, investing through Manitoba local community groups, churches, community centers, and youth-serving organizations to help them upgrade and thrive and continue operations in some cases. So when you think about what community means and what we've done since taking over power from the previous government, it's investing in those organizations and in those towns and in those cities and in those cultural groups to make sure that they can thrive. And taking the time as a government to sit through commitments that were made with the previous government with no signed agreements, as I'm sure you can appreciate, was a really a task that we didn't take lightly, to be able to go through the work made by our government and the work that we needed to do. And I think the important distinction here, I think your choice of words is very interesting when we talk about cancel. The fund that you refer to had a shelf life, and it was not made a permanent part of the sport, culture, heritage, and tourism budget. And although that it did expire, there is still a lot of work that needs to be done within the department, as when we were able to, as a government, approve the expenditure, we're able, you can appreciate the type of work that needed to go in and informing those groups and letting them know that their request to government had been approved and we were ready to sign an agreement with them. We didn't just send letters out the door saying you're approved and then not stick around to sign the contract and agreements with these groups. We were here to make sure that they were able to thrive. And of course, another shout out for my department staff who continue to have the intake and project updates and making sure that all of these community groups that received money in an election year were actually prepared to do the work necessary to pull this type of work off. And as we assist these groups who have these dollars to make sure that they're spent in a responsible, wise, and fiscally prudent manner. And it just speaks to what makes Manitoba great. These groups that received dollars for maybe an upgrade on the floor in a community center or upgraded lights. I think we were really proud to approve these expenditures. And there is still a lot of work to do in these in the communities, and a lot of them haven't even started the task of implementing these projects. So having a group that having a department that continues to buoy and shepherd community groups to get this work done, as I think is really an important part of what we do as a government. And I'm incredibly proud of the work that we've done. And if this was this group or this fund, I think it was not made permanent. It was not made permanent by the previous government, and I think that's a really important thing to remember. And it wasn't made, it was not canceled. You can't cancel something that had an end date, and I think that's a really important distinction. And as I mentioned before during my answer, as these community groups are still grappling with the capacity required to be able to pull off these projects they applied for in an election year, they actually weren't ready for how quickly this supposed 36-month project was announced and then was really whittled down to 14 months in total. I think it just demonstrates the caution that you need to have as a government to make sure that your investments that are going out into the community are done in a responsible way, in a way that the communities can withstand what we're asking them to do. Because ultimately, although they are making an application to the fund, we are asking them to make commitments to be able to complete these tasks in a real, meaningful way.
The member for Selkirk.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. What is the current status of all the grants that were allocated under the ACSC fund? Have all the grant recipients received their funding allocations to date, or is there any of the payouts delayed by the NDP government for any of the recipients of the fund?
The Honourable Minister.
I can confidently and proudly say that we did not cancel one project of the 936 projects that were approved. And to answer your question, as of the end of August, approximately 70% of those 936 projects were paid. But remembering that a lot of these projects went to municipalities that had gone years of no increases at all to their operational budget to be able to invest in projects in their communities. A lot of these projects needed municipal support that wasn't quite in place. Now that municipalities have a government that is prepared to step up in terms of increases in funding at the 2% that was mentioned before, they have certainty that they can go. Some of these projects obviously are multi-year, multi-phase projects that take a lot of design and planning. And as these projects become more and more advanced, I think that it's an important distinction to really remember that when governments prop up municipalities and assist municipalities in getting projects done, there's no limit to what we can do. And unfortunately for some groups, some of their projects were not able to be completed because they changed the scope of the project. But not one group was delayed because of the work that our government accomplished. And again, I appreciate you asking these questions, because what they did, what you're really demonstrating here is that our department was able to act on these programs quickly and to be able to do the work necessary to be able to get these agreements signed, because I remind the member that not one single agreement was signed from the second tranche of the fund. And I think that you can appreciate the work that is involved when we create that type of uncertainty in the public service, uncertainty that was created by the opposition with these groups to saying, well, we don't have an agreement in place. And really happy to say that our group, our government, was able to be the government that advanced these projects forward. And just to clarify, it is 946 projects. And really happy to be able to have this type of government that can respond to the needs that municipalities and groups were under with the uncertainty that was created by this election fund.
The member for Selkirk.
I'd like to thank the minister for that answer, and I also like to ask the minister what he would say to organizations such as the Indigenous Day celebrations for Selkirk that was put on by a wonderful organization that had everything free. They had shelter, they had pancakes, they had face painters, they had entertainment, who applied from this government, who's used to getting a grant year after year after year from the Conservative government, and this year did not receive any funding. What do you tell people who count on something that didn't get any funding, what to do in the future, or what the government thinks of their initiatives?
The Honourable Minister.
Our staff is getting those specific response for you in terms of the group, but we are seeking clarification for a couple of items. The first is which organization specifically, their name, what it is, and if you can define the years in which they receive funding and under which specific grant.
The member for Selkirk.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. It was an application put through by Alfred Anderson, and I think it was just called Indigenous People Selkirk was the one. And according to Mr. Anderson, he had received funding for at least the previous 7 years, if not a lot more. In fact, in my private life, I had donated the shelters back over 20 years ago for a number of years for the organization. It's a large event that happened in Selkirk. I brought it to the Premier's attention. I had spoken to the Minister about that as well. And the Premier actually showed up, did a victory lap prior to the start of the events, spoke to the crowd and quickly left before the event got underway. This has been going on for years in the park, so I may have the name wrong, but it was certainly Alfred Anderson who's applied for that.
The Honourable Minister.
Without knowing the specific name of the group and the specific fund for which they applied, it's hard for us to give accurate information. We can obviously come back with a proper response, as this may be dollars that did not come out of sport, culture, heritage, and tourism. If the fund came out of ACSC the last 2 years, that is something that we'll have to investigate. And whether or not, I believe this is Bucky from the MMF, there may have been pots of money that they accessed through the PC government prior. And I guess it's just another example of trying to scrounge to see what was going on in those 7 previous years, and to find out what type of stakeholders were getting dollars from who. And I think having a great group of workers in our department, the information that we absolutely want to provide is completely accurate. And so if the member opposite could be satisfied with that response, I'd like to continue answering other questions.
The member for Selkirk.
I'd like to thank the minister for at least attempting to try to dig into it. Again, my question might have been a little vague as to which group was asking, but I did bring it forward to the Premier's attention and to yourself. However, many of the people were disappointed that the Premier shows up, wants to get photo ops, like to get behind the station and start flipping some pancakes to show that he's personally involved when, in fact, no money has rolled out. So we'll just let that one be for now. I don't think we're going to get to an answer on that. And I think that we're in agreement when it comes to history, our culture, our heritage, that once you lose it, it's gone. Whether it be a historical building that is knocked down, you don't get that back. And we have an issue right now where that we need to transition our archives into digital preservation. We need to make sure that we are moving forward to make sure that we don't lose anything. I know there's some issues with the brick and mortar of where the items are being stored for humidity, for damage, and we want to make sure that we don't lose our heritage. It's very important. Can the government please let me know, does the NDP support the digitization of the Manitoba archives? And if so, why has this budget not allowed or allocated additional resources to support that?
The Honourable Minister.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify part of the answer or the question. I should underline that there is significant amount of work being done on the digital preservation of Manitoba's history. And I mean, who wouldn't want to preserve the great history of Manitoba, but also the stories that we can learn a lot from. And as we move forward in reconciliation and chart a path forward to the future, having the digital preservation of our records is extremely important. It should also be noted that this significant work that is already being done by the archives, although the expertise and the staffing and the people working in the archives do fall under sport, culture, and heritage and tourism, that the funds to fund the significant work that is being done here comes from our friends in CPGS, Consumer Protection and Government Services, who do a significant amount of work in making sure that this digital preservation project continues. And as a minister responsible for the archives, I'm just blown away by the work that's done to be able to make this a reality for Manitobans. Having visited the government records storage facility and seeing the great work that's going on there to be able to preserve Manitoba's history. Very proud as a government to have done the work in preserving Brandon's history through the Brandon Sun and being able to bring those archives to the Manitoba Archives when they did not have a home and there was a fear of it being lost to the elements. And the work that the Manitoba Archives has been doing and the outreach that it does on X, on open houses, I just think really underlines the fact that we have a rich and diverse history. Looking at some of the maps that were out on that afternoon, I think they had record amount of people come through those doors over the course of the open house, where the people who work in the archives just do phenomenal work to be able to preserve the history. And the digital preservation work that you can imagine is very detailed, very precise, and very important to being able to put our government and our province's history out into digital form. And you know, as a member can appreciate the different changing in technology, the different work that needs to be done, upgrading the software, upgrading of the different technical tools that you need to preserve the digital history of Manitoba or the archived history of Manitoba. It does take a lot of work, and our friends at CPGS who are funding this significant work are advancing our story forward. And when we continue to talk about our history, we can't keep an eye on history without having an eye on the future and being able to record those stories, to be able to preserve them for the next generation is extremely important. And I just wanted to, again, congratulate the archives proactively for working with the Public Service Commission and the Manitoba government and general employees unions to make this possible. They have done great work on looking at what is necessary for the audit and what that means for the preservation of the digital preservation of our story.
The member for Selkirk.
Let's try that. Okay. Thank you, Minister, for that answer. I understand that the task is monumental. Who would have thought years ago that we would be required to do this? Yet in 2023, the Archives of Manitoba was able to double their target for the number of records added publicly to the available database. And yet this year, the NDP chose not to increase that target number of archives added. Why did the minister choose to undercut the target number of publicly available archive records for the 24-25 fiscal year?
The Honorable Minister.
You know, I might not know this about me, but my brother, who got a start working in the Royal Artillery Museum in Shiloh, Manitoba, is an archivist right now, and he works in the Canadian War Museum in Ottawa, and he's personally let me know many times what his job is all about, and the amount of detail and the type of work that he and his team does at the War Museum. And it actually allowed me, when I took this role as minister responsible for the archives, to really have a pretty keen understanding of what it is that involved in doing the work in terms of archiving Manitoba's history. And I actually wanted to thank the member for really bringing this question forward. It shows a keen interest in preserving Manitoba's history, and it also allows me the chance to highlight the great work that's been going on in the Manitoba archives and the type of work that they do. And when we talk about the digital Keystone database, or the Keystone database, what we're really talking about in terms of your target of 12,000 records added. And this measure is actually very highly variable, and it fluctuates year to year. And one of the reasons I think that the member opposite can appreciate is the type of records that may be entered in one year to the next. What's involved in digitizing or adding a map into the Keystone database? What's involved in maybe putting a ledger from a trading post into the database that comes from the 1800s as opposed to the 1900s could be drastically different. And the type of technology required to be able to advance this type of work could be very exhaustive. And this is an operational decision. We're a government that trusts the workers that we have with the expertise on record preservation and industry standards and best practices. They're the experts on what it means to be able to archive these records, but also to be able to have a database that has integrity, that is easy to access and is public. And the people at the archives just do fantastic work, and maintaining their vault, maintaining their digital archives, maintaining the documentary, the heritage of our province, and the online database in which clients gain access to this data has to be really quite managed closely. And the work that our archivists and our experts do with the support from the Consumer Protection and Government Services through the funding of projects like the Digital Preservation Project that's going on is extremely important. And when we talk about what a target is in terms of specific pieces, going back to the ledger example, it might be different than what it is to enter perhaps something that came from a pioneer settlement in 1700s, and telling that story also in the context of what it meant back in the 1700s to have pioneer settlements in Manitoba, and what it did in terms of what is the Indigenous story related to that. So having these experts and these historians in the field gives me great comfort to know that the work they are doing in response to your question to preserve Manitoba's history is just unmatched. And I think we're really blessed in Manitoba to have a really strong group of experts who know what they're doing, who set targets and goals, and continue to meet that operationally. And that's a bit of my lesson on our archiving in Manitoba.
The member for Dawson Trail.
Le ministre pourrait-il préciser quels nouveaux ressources ont été ajoutés au secrétaire francophone?
L'honorable ministre.
Merci, Monsieur le Président. J'aimerais remercier mon collègue pour avoir posé cette question en français. Ça me donne l'occasion de répondre à cette question en français. Et comme vous pouvez constater que notre gouvernement a fait des très grands investissements dans la francophonie ici au Manitoba et que étant un franco-manitobain qui a été élevé dans un village qui était vraiment, on pourrait dire, une île entourée par des communautés anglophones, qu'il n'y a personne qui pourrait parler de cette situation comme moi. Et que l'importance d'avoir un nom comme Simard ou un nom comme Lagacé et d'avoir vécu au Manitoba pour des centaines d'années entouré par d'anglophones, je pense que c'est quelque chose de très spécial qu'on peut continuer d'avoir nos discussions en français. Notre gouvernement et mon mandat était de vraiment faire le Manitoba une province véritablement bilingue. Et avec nos partenaires en Voyage Manitoba, Sport Manitoba, l'Association des municipalités bilingues du Manitoba, aussi avec... I found my iPhone. Que c'était un privilège pour...
Order, please. I'll just remind all members to please make sure that their phones are on mute at this point. The Honorable Minister, l'Honorable Ministre.
Mes excuses, Monsieur le Président. Que nos partenariats avec nos municipalités bilingues, avec nos organismes au Sport Manitoba, c'est là où on a mis des fonds. On a mis des fonds en Voyage Manitoba, on a investi en AMBM. Très content que la DSFM, la Division scolaire franco-manitobaine, a été une des divisions scolaires qui ont reçu une très une très grande hausse importante dans leurs fonds cette année. Parce que notre gouvernement valorise le bilinguisme et avec ses investissements dans les départements d'immigration, d'éducation, en santé, que nous savons que les gens qui cherchent des services en français vont être capables de le faire. Notre gouvernement a répondu à une population bilingue qui a vécu 7 années et demie de coupure les services en français. Je pense à ce moment au Bureau d'éducation française qui a perdu leur ADM et que cette position a été comblée. C'était une des premières choses que nous avons investi nos efforts, que nous avons aussi on regarde un certain trou dans les services de traduction qui a été créé par les gouvernements précédents. C'est quelque chose qui n'était pas acceptable pour nous. Alors, nos investissements, non seulement en immigration, mais en éducation, en santé et à des affaires municipales, que c'est super important que les gens qui peuvent accéder les services en français et qu'avoir un premier ministre bilingue, nous avons une des premières lois projet de loi que nous avons proposé aux gens du Manitoba, c'était de faire notre premier ministre bilingue qui parlait le français. Le premier ministre, officiellement, c'était Louis Riel, qui a fait, lui, comme moi, comme mon père, comme les familles qui ont vraiment travaillé très fort et ils ont parlé à très haute voix en français pour valoriser notre communauté francophone, franco-manitobain. Et je vais juste aussi dire que le Manitoba change, le franco-manitobain, ça inclut tout le monde qui vient de loin, qui ont établi leurs racines ici au Manitoba, soit de l'Afrique ou de l'Europe, de l'Asie, de l'Amérique du Sud. Il y a tellement de très bons francophones qui se sont établis ici au Manitoba parce que nous allons répondre à leurs besoins francophones.
Le député de Dawson Trail.
Merci, ministre, pour cette réponse. Mon deuxième question sera en anglais, parce que je parle en français, je comprends le français, mais je ne trouve pas toujours les mots et il y a une information ici que je ne peux pas. OK, so pardon pour ça, mais page 36 of the estimates of expenditure shows a general decrease to the administration and finance of the government's OREs. Can the minister please confirm that this cut has not impacted, and you did touch on it in your opening remarks, to the Centre Culturel Franco-Manitobain? And if it has, what programming for the Francophone Manitobans will be impacted?
L'honorable ministre.
Merci, monsieur le membre de Dawson Trail. Et j'aimerais aussi te remercier d'avoir demandé cette question parce que ça me donne la chance à parler d'une hausse de 92% au Centre culturel franco-manitobain, que nous avons investi au-dessus de 387 000 $ au Centre culturel franco-manitobain et que nous valorisons le groupe qui travaille là. And just really proud to say that we had a generational increase to the Centre culturel franco-manitobain this year, where they were operating with deficits every year, and this year, with a 92% increase to their operational funding, we were able to give the CCFM the stability they so desperately required in a once-in-a-generational type of increase. We continued with investments, as you may know, to the Manitoba Arts Council. Just recently re-announced our commitment of $1 million more to the Manitoba Arts Council. Manitoba Arts Council, which invests in communities all across Manitoba, and just a fantastic organization that props up theater groups in Birtle and Killarney and Brandon, helps out the large organizations like the Royal Manitoba Theatre Company or the Prairie Theatre Exchange. And those extra dollars that were sent to the OREs, and in this case MAC, really had can have a significant impact for what it can mean to live in Manitoba and work in Manitoba. You know, Manitoba is a place where you can comparatively to some of the larger centers, raise your family and be able to go and see world-class theater and listen to a symphony that plays music from generations ago. And without support of our government, and this additional dollars make a massive difference. And talking to my friends at Sport Manitoba, they're extremely happy and gracious for the increase in funding that we sent to Sport Manitoba last year, and being able to provide programming and partnerships with anti-racism in sport to be able to help our provincial sport organizations really develop a robust, comprehensive programs for anti-racism. And we know that it's an important thing for youth and adults to participate in sport and culture because it can change lives. I've seen it personally when artists in schools would come to the school I was teaching at and being able to sit down with those students and say, hey, now forget your math, forget science, we're gonna do some art projects here, or learn how to play guitar or play the zigazon on the little hand-mouth thingy there. It was pretty cool. The kids really enjoyed it. And what I really noticed as an educator when you invest in arts and you invest in culture and happening in schools, students are actually more ready to learn because they've activated different parts of their brain, and they really enjoy that type of break from math reality for some of them, and actually makes them better thinkers. So really proud of the work that we've been doing. CCFM, je sais qu'ils font de très grands travail, de très beau travail pour répondre à les demandes de la communauté franco-manitobaine, le patio, les expositions d'art, le support pour le Festival du Voyageur, des groupes communautaires qui font l'art, les belles chansons, les soirées de jazz, les partenariats avec le Cirque Molière. Et je pense qu'avec notre investissement historique dans cette organisation, ça va faire une super grande différence pour eux.
The member for Dawson Trail.
Thank the minister for the answer to that question. To switch to sport a little bit, you touched on it there. I had the opportunity to tour Sport Manitoba. What a fantastic facility! It's and in my conversations there, I was reminded of how important sport is to mental health, and how there just seems to be this. I guess they're directly tied together, and my question is not about the mental health component, but I just wanted the minister to be aware that we should most likely invest more in that, especially since mental health is something that's near and dear to myself, and I see the effects on boys and men, and not only on boys and men, but in particular in my case that. Can the minister update on the status of the Pathway to Safer Sports program? What resources have been provided to coaches and sporting officials from this program? And how many coaches and sporting officials have participated in the program since its inception?
The Honorable Minister.
I just wanted to thank the member to do that shout out to the Sport for Life Center. That is a jewel of our downtown. That really proud to have been to be part of a party that really invested in this center. You know, I was a coach for a long time before I became a politician. I'm still not convinced that I'm a politician. So once a coach, always a coach. Once a teacher, always a teacher. And I spent a lot of time in the Sport for Life building before it was a Sport for Life building, doing a lot of the work that local sports organizations do as mandated by the provincial sports organizations. And in Manitoba, we're extremely blessed to have 70 PSOs, over 70 PSOs in Manitoba who put on quality sport experience for kids. And I prior to being a politician, I spent a lot of time coaching kids as a teacher and phys ed teacher and middle years school coach, track commissioner, you name it, I did it. I had my own volleyball club. Volleyball Manitoba was really essential in making sure I could set that up. And I could tell you that the certification required, the Respect in Sport group partnerships that we have here with Sport Manitoba all play a really important factor in developing a coaching pool in our province that allows us to provide safe sport to all players. And it's rooted in the fact that what you were saying before, sport can change a life. Changing how people feel about themselves, being able to be part of a team, being able to set goals and achieve them. My sons are high performance athletes, and there's nothing like beating your personal record at a meet it's sometimes more rewarding for them rather than winning awards. And I think that parents all agree and sport providers that they want values of fair play, values of respect, values of true sport being exhibited in Manitoba. You know, Sport Manitoba is one of the, I would say, national leaders when it comes to safe sport. Just in April, this spring, we had a number of we had a series of workshops that were put on for athletes, for coaches, for community sport leaders, where we had Allison Forsyth, who is a strong advocate of safe sport, come and work with our provincial sport leaders. And that relationship that was created in April paid some dividends as well this fall, where Allison, an Olympic caliber athlete in her own regard, who was a victim of unfortunate circumstances in the safe sport realm, was able to share her stories and with high school students in Brandon and Winnipeg. And that's because she saw Manitoba as being that place where we're listening, where we're actually acting on what it means to keep children safe, and being able to respond to when those things don't materialize, where there are unfortunate incidents. I think is really important that we have in Manitoba, we can be happy, or we can be quite proud of the fact that we have a industry leader. And when we have partnerships with the Respect Group and people like Sheldon Kennedy, people like Allison Forsyth, people in those realms who can do that type of work, I think it speaks volumes to the type of environment that we want adults and kids are participating in. And I just got a note here. We had 92% of our coaches have completed Respect in Sports, according to Sport Manitoba, which is a really high percentage, and that I'm sure that those 8% of coaches are being tasked with either completing their certification or probably won't be behind a bench for very long. So really happy to know that our safe sport strategy and the resources that we provide to our PSOs are really making a difference. And proud to be a leader of Sport Manitoba, where we're an industry and national leader.
The member for Selkirk.
Thank you, Honourable Chair, and I thank the Minister for endeavouring again to get to an answer. It's nice to actually get some answers. In the area that I represent, St. Andrews and the city of Selkirk, we're very blessed to be along the Red River and have so many historical stops along the way. We have the Rectory in St. Andrews, the historic St. Andrews Church. We have the Denver Church along the way. We also have Lower Fort Garry, but another one of the areas that we have spoken about was Captain Kennedy House. Captain Kennedy House was it's an icon in the area, and as a matter of fact, my first wedding, we had pictures there, although nobody looks at those pictures now because I've gone to my second wedding. But it's a great spot. It was a tea house at one time, and there's a tremendous effort by the citizens in the area and Red River North Tourism to get that open. What is the plan to get that open and operational moving forward?
The Honorable Minister.
Well, I can appreciate how members opposite think I'm the minister of everything. But in respect to this, the Kennedy House specifically, I can tell you I'm not the minister that is shepherding that project to completion. It stays with the Parks and Climate Change. I can advise the member opposite that I did meet with representatives from Red River North Tourism. I think they're a fantastic organization. And from a tourism aspect, I think that the places you mentioned, St. Andrew's Rectory, Lower Fort Garry, Community Selkirk, and then heading north along the Interlake Tourism, here's a shout out for you. You just do incredible work. But we met with them. I can appreciate the members' question, but I can advise that the work is ongoing on the restoration of Kennedy House, and that it is going to be a significant piece of what will happen in tourism in the Red River North area. However, that's my full response.
The member for Selkirk.
I'd like to thank the minister for that answer, and I certainly will follow up with the other minister on that. In our film industry, we all know the success of the existing tax programs that we had in place, implemented under the PC government. That was for film and video production in the province. Despite campaigning on doing so and promising again in the budget, the NDP have yet to, quote, modernize, end quote, the film and tax credits. When can we expect an update on what changes or cuts may be made to these tax credits?
The Honorable Minister.
So one of the first encounters I had with the Manitoba Film and Music community was at their holiday party. And they had coasters there, and it said MFM, Best Film Tax Credit in North America. And I thought that was really great. Like, we're number one, so how do we be number one plus? And I think the way that you do that is you continue to support an industry that is doing great things. You know, this year's budget has an increase of 461,000 to Manitoba Film and Music. As you can imagine, Manitoba Film and Music's budget was decimated in 2017. We want to talk about budget days and how people reacted during that time. You can imagine being someone in the MFM's office when they were told that their budget was being slashed. And we've made this investment in MFM. It really is one of the things that Manitoba is being known for. Manitoba is Hollywood North. You can't turn your head in this city or in this province without seeing a film shoot happening. It was pretty exciting where I'm from. You wouldn't think about this, but St. Lazare on the border of Saskatchewan and Manitoba, just south of Russell there was a film came and filmed there this summer, and it's a pretty big deal for a town of 300 or whatnot, and sometimes politicians take credit for things that they shouldn't. So you can imagine all of my cousins and uncles and people I grew up with saying, "Hey, Samart, is this because of you?" And I have to say that, I think it's because of the environment that's been created here in Manitoba, right? Manitoba has an environment that is known for its natural beauty. We have downtown Winnipeg that can sub off for downtown Chicago. It's just a beautiful buildings in the Exchange. We have some great leadership in the MFM. And they were obviously, as you can imagine, extremely happy with the work that they've been doing, but also that the investments that they're seeing from us here in Manitoba. And being known as Hollywood North and having restored Manitoba's reputation for being inviting to business, I think is really something that we can point to as being something to be proud of. And as we work through the work that we need to work through with our stakeholders, we get to appreciate the type of work that happens here in Manitoba. The number of set designers, keys, grips, camera operators, hair and makeup, costume designers, production managers, all of the support people that exist here in Manitoba that allow these companies to be able to invest in coming to Manitoba and shooting these big budget films. And having a banner year this year in Manitoba film industry, I think is an important piece, and knowing that we have a government and a landscape that is prepared to receive them. Driving up to Birds Hill this summer, you couldn't drive up there without going past a camera crew and a bunch of operators. Lilac Resort, it's a night scene for what's going to be showing up in the movie. And it's kind of like getting to the point here, it's Christmas season, holiday season. I'm gonna have to confess to a guilty pleasure where my wife and I get to watch these Hallmark movies, even though we know the ending well in advance. And then I say, "Hey, I bet you this one was filmed in Winnipeg." And then we try to use our eyes to be able to pick out the locations. And I see some smiles coming from across the way here, because I bet you some of them are doing that too. And I'm just really, really proud of the people who put on these shows, the people who support these shows. Proud of the fact that on that coaster we can see MFM, Best Tax Credit in North America. I just think that it's something that we will continue to look at and work with our stakeholders with, and just continue to spread the good news of Manitoba.
The honorable, or the member from Selkirk?
I am honorable.
Yeah, you are.
I want to thank the minister and the department for taking the time today to spend with us and go through the answers. I did this previously, advanced education and training, and got no answers, so it was kind of refreshing to actually get some answers. We are in agreement here on both sides that we're nearly do not have to have close to the amount of time that we would want to spend. We've got literally probably hundreds of questions out there. We feel that we've been kind of forced into wrapping this up as quick as possible. However, when you take a look at what the movie industry does, Woody Harrelson and the movie Champions, part of that was filmed in my location. They came into Selkirk and they rented my space for a week. It's extremely impressive to see that operation underway. And I think that we need to do more to encourage the film industry to keep coming here and developing in our province. I think we need to do a lot more for areas like we just mentioned with Alfred Anderson and the Indigenous group that put on a celebration in Selkirk to find out that funds that they depended on that just weren't there. I think that we can all agree that with culture and heritage, we need to maintain that, we need to focus on that, make sure that it's going to be here. Right or wrong, we need to preserve that. It's a historical record of what's happened, and we need to make sure that we can learn from it and move forward, especially when we're looking at reconciliation and bringing everybody together as a province. So at that time, I will say that unfortunately our time has been cut short, but we're just going to leave it at that for now. Thank you very much for your time today.
Hearing no further questions, we will now proceed to consideration of the resolutions relevant to this department. I will now call Resolution 14.2. Resolved that there be granted to His Majesty a sum not exceeding $46,368,000 for sport, culture, heritage, and tourism culture and heritage programs for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2025. Shall the resolution pass? The resolution is accordingly passed. Resolution 14.3, resolved that there be granted to His Majesty a sum not exceeding $2,855,000 for sport, culture, heritage, and tourism information resources for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2025. Shall the resolution pass? The resolution is accordingly passed. Resolution 14.4, resolved that there be granted to His Majesty a sum not exceeding $36,200,000 for sports, culture, heritage, and tourism, other reporting entities' capital investment for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2025. Shall the resolution pass? The resolution is accordingly passed. The last item to be considered for the estimates of the department is item 14.1A, the minister's salary contained in resolution 14.1. At this point, we request that the minister's staff leave the table for the consideration of this last item. The floor is open for questions. The member from Dawson Trail.
So I'm going to have a thing that I'm going to move here in a second, but I'm going to just give you a little bit of a preamble as to why I'm moving it in this direction. I was quite surprised when we received the book of estimates for sport, culture, and heritage, and Francophone. I'm not going to leave that out of there, but it was very small and a little bit shocking to have such a small expenditure book handed off to us. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to propose or move a motion on the minister's salary, which is going to be ironically $1 less than the total amount of pages found in the supplements book. So I move that line item 14.1A be amended so that the Minister of Sport, Culture, and Heritage and Tourism's salary be reduced to $16.
It has been moved by the honorable member for Dawson Trail. Yep, and then just follow that script.
It has been moved by the honorable, order please, order. Order please. It has been moved by the honorable member for Dawson Trail that item 14.1A be amended so that the Minister of Sports, Culture, Heritage, and Tourism salary be reduced to $16. Is the committee ready for the question? Oh, sorry, the motion is in order. Are there any questions or comments on the motion? Is the committee ready for the question? Shall the motion pass?
No. Yes.
I hear a no. So I asked you.
Yeah.
So all those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed to the motion, please say nay. Nay. In my opinion, the nays have it.
And so now,
This completes.
right, the motion is
Yes.
accordingly defeated.
Sorry,
Please vote.
I would like to add that the motion is accordingly defeated. The honorable member for Springfield Richot.
On division, please.
So the motion is accordingly defeated on division.
No, not yet. Let's do this one. So resolution,
So we move on to resolution 14.1. Resolved, there be granted to His Majesty a sum not exceeding $42,853,000 for sport, culture, heritage, and tourism, administration, and finance for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2025. Shall the resolution pass? The resolution is accordingly passed.
okay, and now it's,
This completes the estimates of the Department of Sport, Culture, Heritage, and Tourism. However, this section of the Committee of Supply will now consider the estimates of the Legislative Assembly.
yeah,
I have been informed that members do not have questions on the Assembly estimates this year, so we will proceed directly to putting the question on the resolution. I will now call Resolution 1.1. Resolved that there be granted to His Majesty a sum not exceeding $12,703,000 for Legislative Assembly, other Assembly expenditures for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2025. Shall the resolution pass? The resolution is accordingly passed. Resolution 1.2, resolve that there be granted to His Majesty a sum not exceeding $7,863,000 for Legislative Assembly, Office of the Auditor General for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2025. Shall the resolution pass? The resolution is accordingly passed. Resolution 1.3, resolved that there be granted to His Majesty a sum not exceeding $5,820,000 for Legislative Assembly, Office of the Ombudsman for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2025. Shall the resolution pass? The resolution is accordingly passed. Resolution 1.4, resolved there be granted to His Majesty a sum not exceeding $2,745,000 for Legislative Assembly, Office of the Chief's Electoral Officer, for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2025. Shall the resolution pass? The resolution is accordingly passed. Resolution 1.6, resolve that there be granted to His Majesty a sum not exceeding $7,765,000 for Legislative Assembly, Office of the Advocate for Children and Youth for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2025. Shall the resolution pass? The resolution is accordingly passed. Resolution 1.6, resolve that there be granted to His Majesty a sum not exceeding $3,119,000 for Legislative Assembly capital assets for the fiscal year ending March 31st, 2025. Shall the resolution pass? The resolution is accordingly passed. This completes the estimates for the Legislative Assembly. This concludes the consideration of estimates in this section of the Committee of Supply. I would like to thank the departmental staff, ministers, critics, and all honorable members for their work during this process. The time being 4:53, Committee rise.
Au travail. C'est vraiment bien fait ça. Puis,